COVERED.
Get
Covered for
covered.
you and me.
It'd be so sensual.
I know, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel inspired to tell my friends to sign up online.
That cost $1.3 million for Richard Simmons. He's working it. He's strutting his stuff to promote Get Covered with Obamacare. The same Get Covered that could have some Americans handing over their personal information to, get this, a convicted criminal. What's going on here anyway?
These moves are telling us something.
They are. I think they're saying be flexible about your health insurance options. Get covered. Hashtag.
Okay, so that's part of California's Obamacare promotion. The cost to taxpayers, more than $1 million. And now we're getting word dozens of convicted criminals are working as Obamacare navigators in the Golden State. John, does that scare you?
Of course it does. These guys being in charge of anything scares me. Look, there's no business experience at all. They couldn't run Tracy's Pizza Parlor. And now they're trying to set up this massive nationwide healthcare system. They outsource the website to a Montreal company. Then they send it to a Dublin-based company. I guess there's no software engineers in America. And now they have criminals allegedly working for them. There's no quality control. There's nothing put in place. They rush this thing through, and we're seeing what happens when ideologues who don't know anything about business do something.
Okay, Jonas, but these criminals, they've paid their debt to society. What's wrong with hiring them?
Exactly right. This country incarcerates too many people at a great cost to taxpayers. It's mostly a state issue, but I will say, who else is going to hire these ex-cons? Private companies aren't forced to. They can look at their background records. Your bankruptcy filing's off your record after a certain amount of years, but these people never can get jobs because they did some prison. Isn't the prison supposed to be the punishment? Not you can't get a job for the rest of your life because you were in prison? So who else is going to hire them? I say this is better than putting them in prison, which costs taxpayers 10 times more than hiring them for a low-paid job. I'll also add, is this the best way to get our data? Like, if you were an ex-con, wouldn't you just buy that from the Target hackers? Why would you, go get a job at a low-paying job at a Walmart? Help the people.
Gary B., is our concern really the employment rate of ex-cons, or should we be worried that they're getting what is basically candy to identity thieves? They're getting Social Security numbers. There's so much financial information.
Exactly, Brenda. You might as well run an ad on Craigslist saying free government money. Because look, I'll give you one anecdote. In 2007, there was a Medicare task force that investigated 1,600 random businesses, associated with Medicare in Florida. They found that nearly 500 of them didn't even exist. And yet those same 500 companies billed the government almost $250 million. Look, Brenda, you have Nigerian and Russian mobs involved now in Medicare. You have a New York crime family that moved to Florida because of Medicare. Look, Brenda, anytime the government runs something this massive, whether it's Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, it's basically, like I said, it's free money. It attracts the criminal element because the government's like a sieve with our money.
Okay, David, Richard Simmons, convicted criminals. What do you think of all this?
Well, I think, look, we're all concerned about private data being compromised. As we just saw recently with Target, it can happen in the private sector as well as the public sector. And I think they do have measures, whether it's background checks or the excluded parties list, which the government maintains for anybody who is not in good standing with the government to do business with the government. And we hope that with this information that we're now talking about, as well as further monitoring, that we won't have the compromised data, and we can go on to doing more than 3 million people already enrolled in the Affordable Care Act.
This is so much bigger, Brenda. First of all, who made the colossal decision to put Richard Simmons in red tights thinking he could sell anything? I love him with all my heart and soul, but who made that decision? Second of all, Catherine Sebelius herself said, you're right, maybe we should have done a little bit more background check on these people. And third, I get the notion that we should give convicted felons a second shot in life, but then promote it and say, hey, this is what we're doing. That's not what happened. This was a big fat oops. And all it does is lead to more skepticism about Obamacare and what other oops are going to show up down the line.
You mentioned Kathleen Sebelius. She is the head of HHS and really in charge of Obamacare. Okay, John, what do you think?
Well, look, I have no problem with people who have served their time getting a job, as Jonas says, but why do you have to put them in front of people who haven't committed a crime? I mean, this is nuts to me, especially when you're putting someone in charge of data that they can breach and use for some type of nefarious means. Look, the reason you do background checks on people, if a person has a problem that he's done in the past with some type of money, you don't put him in charge of your company's cash register. It's that simple. There's no quality control.
Okay, thanks, guys.